The first laugh cut through the arena like a blade. Not a friendly laugh. Not a cheer. A sharp, mocking, echoing sound amplified through speakers built to magnify glory, now magnifying humiliation. And at the center of it stood Ronda Rousey. The lights were blinding. The stage enormous. Tens of thousands packed into the arena, phones raised, screens glowing. This was supposed to be a celebration segment, a showcase. Instead, it turned into something else. Something ugly. A highlight reel played on the massive screen behind her. But it wasn't her victories. It was her losses. Knockouts. Slow-motion replays. Commentary clips. Headlines questioning her dominance. Edited pauses designed to stretch embarrassment. The crowd didn't know how to react at first. A few uneasy laughs, then louder ones when the host leaned into it. Guess invincibility has an expiration date, the announcer joked. Another laugh track. Louder. Ronda didn't move. She stood there in silence, jaw tight, eyes forward, shoulders squared. Not reacting, not flinching. But the arena could feel it, tension rising like pressure inside a sealed chamber. Because humiliation in private is painful. Humiliation in front of thousands? That's war. The camera zoomed in on her face, expecting anger. Maybe tears. Maybe a storm. Instead, composure. But not the soft kind. The kind that comes from surviving storms no one saw. The announcer continued. It's tough when the aura fades, huh? Hard to stay the baddest woman on the planet forever. The crowd reacted louder now. Some cheering. Some uncomfortable. Some whispering, sensing something was off. Ronda's breathing slowed deliberately. Inhale. Exhale. Because here's what they forgot. You don't humiliate a fighter and expect silence. You don't corner someone trained for combat and assume they'll fold. You don't mistake composure for weakness. Backstage, production staff shifted nervously. This wasn't how it was scripted. Teasing? Yes. Light jabs? Sure. But this had crossed into something else. The reel kept playing. Her knockout loss looping again in brutal slow motion. Freeze frame on impact. Zoomed. Enhanced. The arena noise swelled. Ronda finally reached for the microphone. The entire arena quieted instantly. Because now it wasn't a joke. You done? She asked calmly. No yelling. No rage. Just calm. The announcer smirked. Just having fun. Ronda tilted her head slightly. Fun. The word lingered. You think replaying my losses in front of a sold-out arena is fun? Silence crept across the crowd. You think building hype means tearing someone down? The tension thickened. She stepped forward, not aggressively, deliberately. I lost. Yes. I got knocked out. Yes. But every time I got up. Every time. And you know what? She turned, looking at the sea of faces. I didn't get back up for you. Shock rippled through the audience. I got back up because fighters don't quit. The energy shifted. The laughter died completely. Because this wasn't humiliation anymore. This was transformation. The announcer tried to interrupt, but she raised her hand. Not threatening, just commanding. And somehow he stopped talking. You brought thousands here tonight, she continued. And instead of celebrating resilience, you tried to sell embarrassment. She paused. But here's the problem with that strategy. The arena leaned in. You can't embarrass someone who already faced their lowest moment and survived it. A wave of murmurs spread through the seats. Phones lifted higher. Recording. Streaming. Capturing history. Her voice deepened slightly. Emotion controlled but present. I've been knocked out in front of millions. I've heard critics call me finished. Overrated. Done. She nodded once. And I'm still standing. The crowd began to clap. Slowly at first. And if you think a highlight reel can break me. She stepped closer to center stage. You clearly haven't been paying attention. The applause grew louder. The announcer shifted awkwardly. The producers behind the curtain were scrambling now. This wasn't humiliation anymore. This was a takeover. You wanted a show? She said. The crowd roared in anticipation. Let's give them a show. The tension snapped. She dropped the microphone to her side, not in anger, but with decision. The arena lights dimmed unexpectedly. The giant screen behind her flickered. But this time, the footage changed. Clips of her victories. Her arm bars. Her championship wins. The moment she became a global icon. The roar of crowds chanting her name. The audience erupted. Because the narrative had flipped. Completely. The announcer stood there stunned. This wasn't in the script. But the arena had chosen. They weren't watching humiliation anymore. They were witnessing reclamation. Ronda raised the microphone one more time. You tried to define my story by my losses, she said steadily. But fighters don't get defined by how they fall. She looked directly into the main broadcast camera. They get defined by how they rise. The roar that followed shook the building. It wasn't polite applause. It was thunder. And here's what shocked the arena most. She didn't storm off. She didn't demand apologies. She didn't threaten anyone. She stood there, calm, composed, owning every second of it. Because real power isn't revenge. It's control. The announcer finally muttered. That wasn't. We didn't mean. She looked at him, not angry, almost pitying. You meant exactly what you did, she replied. Just remember next time. Humiliation is cheap. Respect is earned. The crowd was on its feet now, chanting her name. Ronda, Ronda, Ronda. The very arena that had laughed minutes ago now trembled with admiration. That's the thing about tension. It can flip. And when it does, it's explosive. She walked toward the edge of the stage, lights following her. Not rushed. Not triumphant. Controlled. That was the word echoing in the arena long after the chant of her name began to fade. Not rage. Not revenge. Controlled. But control doesn't mean numb. And as Ronda Rousey stepped off that stage and through the curtain, the noise of the arena dulled into a low rumble behind thick black drapes. Her jaw finally loosened. Not weakness. Release. Backstage was different. No lights. No roaring crowd. Just production assistants staring at tablets, promoters whispering urgently, security staff pretending not to listen. The same people who had approved that humiliating highlight reel were now avoiding eye contact. Because in real life, humiliation has consequences. A senior producer approached her carefully. Ronda, that segment wasn't meant to go that far. She stopped walking, turned slowly. Who approved the edit? Silence. The producer hesitated. It was marketing. They wanted controversy. Engagement. She nodded once. At my expense. No one answered. They didn't need to. In the hallway outside her locker room, the muffled roar of the crowd could still be heard. They were still chanting. Still reacting. The moment had gone viral already. Social media clips were spreading faster than anyone could contain them. But inside that corridor, it wasn't viral energy. It was tension. One of the younger staff members finally spoke up. We didn't think you'd respond like that. She raised an eyebrow slightly. How did you expect me to respond? He didn't answer. Because they had expected anger. Maybe a meltdown. Maybe a headline that read, Rousey loses control on live broadcast. Instead, they got composure. And composure is harder to spin. Inside her locker room, the noise faded further. The door shut. The silence settled. She sat on the bench, elbows on her knees, hands clasped. The reel had shown her worst loss in slow motion. The punch, the fall, the stillness. That moment had haunted her for years. It wasn't entertainment to her. It was trauma replayed. And that's what made what happened real. She wasn't embarrassed because she lost. Fighters lose. She was embarrassed because someone weaponized her lowest moment for ratings. That's different. There was a knock on the door. Her coach stepped in quietly. No dramatic speech. No exaggerated concern. He had been there through the wins and the knockouts. You handled it, he said simply. She looked up at him. I wasn't going to let them define me by one night. He nodded. They were testing you. I know. Why didn't you walk out? She paused before answering. Because walking out would have given them exactly what they wanted. Drama without direction. Meanwhile, in the production control room, executives were scrambling. Phones were lighting up. Sponsors were calling. Some congratulating the moment's intensity. Others questioning the decision to push it that far. One executive replayed the footage. Not the humiliating reel, but her response. Her steady voice. The crowd shift. The standing ovation. That, he muttered, is leadership under pressure. Another executive sighed. We tried to provoke controversy. Instead, we handed her a redemption narrative. And redemption narratives are powerful. Outside in the parking structure, fans were already gathering near the exit, hoping to catch a glimpse of her. But what they were talking about wasn't the humiliation. It was the control. She didn't snap. She didn't cry. She didn't attack him. She flipped it. That's what stuck. In real life, people respect restraint more than rage. Later that night, a press conference was hastily arranged. Not originally planned. But the arena moment demanded follow-up. She stepped up to the podium calmly. Reporters leaned forward. Cameras flashed. Ronda, were you blindsided by the highlight reel? Yes. Do you feel disrespected? Yes. Are you considering legal action? She shook her head. No. The room murmured. Why not? A reporter pressed. Because accountability doesn't always require lawsuits. Sometimes it requires clarity. Silence fell over the room. They tried to embarrass me. That's their choice. I chose how I responded. That's mine. A journalist from a major sports outlet asked the question everyone was thinking. Did that moment tonight change anything for you? She paused longer this time. Yes. Pins froze mid-note. It reminded me why I fight. Not for hype. Not for highlight reels. Not for approval. But because I refuse to let someone else narrate my resilience. That line would headline every sports page by morning. Behind the scenes, the announcer who had delivered the jokes requested a private meeting. No cameras. No microphones. He stepped into the conference room looking smaller than he had on stage. I went too far, he admitted. She studied him for a moment. Not hostile. Just assessing. Yes, she said. He swallowed. I thought it would build hype. Hype built on humiliation doesn't last, she replied. Respect does. There was no yelling. No insults. Just truth. And truth can be heavier than anger. By the next morning, sports analysts were debating the moment everywhere. Some criticized the producers for crossing the line. Others praised her composure. But almost all agreed on one thing. The arena had witnessed something rare. Not a fight. Not a scandal. A demonstration of emotional discipline under public pressure. Days later, ticket sales for her upcoming appearance surged. Not because people wanted to see controversy, but because they wanted to see the person who stood in the center of humiliation and didn't break. That's real. That's human. That's powerful. And in quiet moments alone, she admitted something to herself she would never say on camera. It had hurt. Seeing that knockout again. Hearing the laughter. Feeling the setup. But growth isn't proven when things go right. It's proven when someone tries to pull you backward, and you stay upright. Controlled. That night wasn't about humiliation. It became about ownership. They tried to reduce her to a loss. Instead, they amplified her resilience. And the arena didn't just witness a comeback. They witnessed maturity under fire. Real. Unscripted. Unshaken.